You know what they say about the best jokes? It's funny because it's true. And the Babylon Bee has made such an art form out of weaving the truth about leftists into hilarious satire that they've become the target of liberals who keep trying to fact-check their jokes. But now the left has taken their rage over the Bee to a new level. The site has been banned by Twitter for alleged hateful conduct over a humorous piece that simply told the truth. I don't see how simply being honest can be called hateful or promoting violence, particularly since the story was about the Bee honoring Levine as Man of the Year. Either way, Bee editor Seth Dillon responded, "We're not deleting anything. Truth is not hate speech. If the cost of telling the truth is the loss of our Twitter account, then so be it. Never censor yourself. Insist that 2 and 2 make 4 even if Twitter tries to compel you to say otherwise. Make them ban tens of millions of us." I'm happy to see more and more people taking that attitude and standing up to the social media bullies and censors. With rising numbers of competitors and Twitter and Facebook making themselves irrelevant through their efforts to ideologically cleanse their user base, it can only hasten their journey to becoming the MySpace of the 2020s. Fellow satirist David Burge had a great observation on this story when he ironically posted on Twitter, "Ever notice that you're more likely to be banned by Twitter for expressing an opinion held by 90% of the public than one held by 10% of the public?" I got a question for you. What do you think has to happen for the current social media giants to be taken down and something or somebody else take their place? Be sure and leave your answers, what you think, in the comments below. Now, speaking of crazy opinions, I don't quote every childish thing that Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez tweets to her enraptured fans because there's only 24 hours in a day. But this one, well, it was especially weird and noteworthy. A follower asked, "How do you respond when people accuse you of being a socialist?" The answer to that, of course, is that she is a socialist. She calls herself a democratic socialist, which is a distinction without a difference. But for some reason, she decided to whisper conspiratorially into the camera. Watch.
Tell you a secret. Most people don't really know what capitalism is. Most people don't even know what socialism is. But most people are not capitalists because they don't have capitalist money. They're not billionaires. Sometimes the label doesn't matter as much as just talking about policies. That's easier to understand. Do you think people should die because they can't afford insulin? Do you think that fossil fuel CEO should decide whether the planet gets set on fire? Me neither.
If she learned this in her Boston University economics class, she ought to demand a refund of her capitalistic parents' tuition money. Capitalism isn't the money billionaires have. It's the economic system that allows people who start with nothing to become millionaires and billionaires. And as to the idea that capitalists think that people ought to die because they can't afford insulin, or that they think fossil fuel CEOs should decide whether the planet gets set on fire, that is patently absurd. For the record, I know quite a few capitalists, and none of them think people ought to die for lack of insulin, or that anyone ought to set the planet on fire. But after looking at her Twitter feed, you might want to set your phone on fire. You can see why I don't bother to talk about this subject a whole lot, but that one particular one, well, it was crazy enough to make the news, and it's a good lead-in to this introduction of her Republican challenger, Tina Fortes. She's a small businesswoman who supports the police, border enforcement, and school choice. She recently said, AOC and her allies have killed New Yorkers with their bail reform and soft-on-crime policies, imprisoned us in our homes with lockdowns, ruined small businesses with shutdowns, violated our rights with mandates, and tortured children with masks for political science, not medical science. Enough is enough. New Yorkers have suffered because these liberals acted like dictators drunk on power. They must be stopped, and it starts with firing AOC. Well, she even had a better answer than AOC to the question of why people call AOC a socialist. Here's what she said. AOC is a communist sympathizer. She's the darling of the Democratic Socialists of America, a Marxist organization that glorified Cuba's Castro regime and Venezuela's Maduro regime. You've got to also love her campaign slogan, "Make AOC bartend again." Sadly, AOC represents a New York district that is so blue, Nancy Pelosi was likely referring to it when she said that in some New York races, a glass of water with a D after its name could win. But who knows? Maybe this is the year when even in districts like that, a Republican could have a chance, especially when the Democrat glass of water is half empty and obviously cracked. Well, if you're sick of woke nonsense, maybe you ought to subscribe to this channel and click the notification bell. You get nothing but reality here. And if you enjoyed the video, click the like button. Keep an eye out for the live stream this Friday. That's where we'll catch up on the news of the week and answer your most vile and hateful questions, or even your nice ones. If you want more of my news analysis and commentary, be sure to sign up for my newsletter at MikeHuckabee.com. It's completely free. It really is. That's going to do it for this edition of The Breakdown. I'm Mike Huckabee.